Speaker.
Senator Onesimus Murkomen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like Senator James Orengo, the minority leader, said, it's unusual to react to a statement of the majority leader on the business, but the uniqueness of this statement, and being the last statement of the majority leader, thank you for, gives us an opportunity to say something, and I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, time flies. It was just the other day when we came to this chamber, and Mr. Speaker, I will remember this term of the Senate to be one of the most unique ones, because I arrived here, Mr. Speaker, being the majority leader of the Senate, and with the responsibility that my successor, Senator Pogisho, has read about the successes and the challenges we've gone through. That responsibility was bestowed on me for half of the term, slightly more than half of the term, and he completed the remaining of the term. And so let me start by congratulating Senator Pogisho for the work he did from when the time he was made the majority leader. And Mr. Speaker, congratulate Senator Orengo for working together with Senator Pogisho and the rest of the Senate Business Committee chaired by yourself to steer this House to ensure that the business of this House, Mr. Speaker, continue, and that the business of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, is in an orderly manner. Second, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this House, this term, was one of the most consequential term in many ways. That, Mr. Speaker, we had the greatest opportunity, like Senator Orengo said, we had a great opportunity to debate on a matter that for the past two occasions, we danced around it. But in this term, we managed, Mr. Speaker, to have very robust and far-reaching discussion on the county allocation of revenue formula. And we will be remembered, Mr. Speaker, for the effort we put to ensure that we maintain the principle of equity and to ensure that those who have greater population get the resources they deserve without disenfranchising those, Mr. Speaker, who have greater landmass and lesser population. And so if this Senate, if I was to be asked the highlight of this Senate, Mr. Speaker, I would say it is the work we demonstrated, the efforts, the hard work of all the senators. And Mr. Speaker, because that is very tremendous progress that we made in this very term, I want to recognize the senators, Mr. Speaker, who sacrificed beyond the call of duty and suffered, Mr. Speaker, as a result. People like Senator Langat. Senator Langat of Bomet must be remembered, Mr. Speaker, that he was arrested for the sake of that formula, Mr. Speaker, to succeed. People like Senator Lelegwe, people like Senator Malala. Mr. Speaker, that was something. And I want to congratulate you, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to say that's one of your also highlights of your firm stand, but it is indeed one of the two things that I'll remember you for. One is the decision you made that time when it was apparent that if we had proceeded, we would have really done injustice to the Senate and to our colleagues. And so, Mr. Speaker, you also deserve our congratulations for standing firm and contributing to the success of that formula. And those senators also, who, though their counties initially was purported to benefit from this formula, like Senator Cheriot, Senator Malala, and a few, Senator Sakaja, myself, and among others, Mr. Speaker, and Senator Langat was part of that team. We ended up, Mr. Speaker, standing firm, and everybody benefited at the end. So I want to congratulate you for that. Number two, Mr. Speaker, is that this Senate will be remembered for defending its mandate. If there's a time, like Senator Orengo has said, we remained bipartisan and extremely committed to our cause, is when our mandate was threatened, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, in unison, this House, and I brought a motion to the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, part of the things that accelerated my removal was to bring a motion in this House to seek an approval of the chamber to go to court to defend its mandate. And I'm glad, Mr. Speaker, you signed the necessary documents, the affidavit, and for that petition to succeed with Senator Orengo, with myself. And Mr. Speaker, I'm very, very happy that we succeeded in the National Assembly, in the High Court. And Mr. Speaker, Senator Orengo said something very profound. I wish the future presidents would, Mr. Speaker, not just sign laws for the sake of it, will exercise their mandate, Mr. Speaker, with certain level of responsibility and caution and interest of the public, and maintaining this, Mr. Speaker, committee of the two houses. Sadly, even though you and your brother in the National Assembly came from the same party, or technically sponsored by the same party, it's very sad that in the 2 terms, where one party has controlled both chambers, we've not been able to find unity in terms of decision-making and application of the Constitution insofar as movement of bills from So, Mr. Speaker, I hope this one is on record, not just for here. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that it's been then our privilege to ensure that we defend our mandate. And like Senator Orengo said, that is where now respect of the Constitution and our institutions comes in. We must continue respecting our courts, even when the decision is not favorable to us. It's unfortunate that the decision went the way it went in the Court of Appeal. And since we are in the Supreme Court, I believe that, Mr. Speaker, this matter will be settled once and for all to ensure that the two houses and the Senate itself will function the way it was intended by the framers of our Constitution and by the people of Kenya when they promulgated this Constitution on 27th of August 2010. Last, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues in the majority side who really supported me in my tenure as the majority leader. It wasn't an easy time. There were things that we didn't agree with the executive. I am very proud of my record of standing up to the president and the executive when the mandate of this house was threatened. In some of the meetings, you were there, Mr. Speaker. In some of the meetings, I was there with my colleagues in leadership. That's something I'm always proud of. And I believe that I have the benefit of time and history. And Mr. Speaker, in the fullness of time, history will prove me right, that it was important to stand for the things I stood for, whether it was the mandate of this House and whether, Mr. Speaker, it was related to political management of the majority side. I will miss, Mr. Speaker, Senator Orengo. It is now very clear that he will not be in this House in the next term. It was my greatest pleasure to debate with him, Mr. Speaker. First of all, even to be in this chamber with him. And for the umpteenth time, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, that it is people like Senator Orengo, Honorable Paul Muite, and others who were in Parliament at the time, who are lawyers, who helped me make my mind that I was going to study law. So in many ways, Senator Orengo has been my great inspiration. And when the time I came to this chamber in 2013, I was overwhelmed, Mr. Speaker, by the fact that I was sitting here with Senator Orengo, Senator Wetangula, among other lawyers that I looked up to when I was studying law. And many other legislators, like Amos Wako, Senator Amos Wako, among others. It is now very clear that Senator Orengo has chosen a different path, Mr. Speaker. He is vying to be the governor of Mr. Speaker, Siaya. I don't think we have a candidate there, Mr. Speaker, so if I endorse Senator Orengo, I will not be in trouble when I'm on my side. I don't even know whether my vote will matter in the Siaya. But I believe that, Mr. Speaker, if Senator Orengo goes with the values and principles that he has expounded here, Mr. Speaker, and the beliefs he has had in this chamber, and the history he has, and the record he has established of integrity and hard work, and Mr. Speaker, belief of institutions, including this House, I believe that he's going to do a good job for the people of Siaya. I would have really loved to see him back here, but I'll be seeing him in the Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Speaker, when he comes here for questioning, and I believe that he will not have it will not be adversely mentioned in any audit report for the next 5 years. Mr. Speaker, the same goes for you. You've done your best, Mr. Speaker. You had situations that I know many Kenyans expect me to comment on, including the ruling related to my removal, that have been difficult for you, but I've understood. I have personally understood the circumstances under which you are operating. And, Mr. Speaker, we will also miss your services in this chamber. You've been very extremely enthusiastic servant of this House. You have, Mr. Speaker, even when we have disagreed with you on your decisions, you have taken your time out of here to make personal explanation to individuals, including myself. And, Mr. Speaker, that shows that you are a leader with conscience. And as you go back to Bungoma, to be the governor of Bungoma, Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt in my mind you will be elected with over 70% of the votes of Bungoma County. We will expect you again when we call you here, Mr. Speaker, in the County Public Accounts Committee. You will appear. But that's not the only way we will be interacting. We will also interact insofar as in many other forums, Mr. Speaker, that are intergovernmental in nature. I hope and I believe that we should not do the kind of impeachments we did in this term, so that those of you who are going to be governors should go home knowing that those of us who will remain here, God willing, must exercise a higher level of caution when dealing with impeachments touching on governors. Our lowest moment was the removal of Governor Sonko and Governor Waititu, Mr. Speaker. That was deplorable because we messed up, Mr. Speaker, the lives of two gentlemen. And since I am there, let me just say this in 1 second, Mr. Speaker, in 1 minute so that I sit. I feel very sad that Governor Sonko is being taken for a ride and is not being given a chance to run. Mr. Speaker, him being barred from running, Mr. Speaker, should go down in history as one of the most, Mr. Speaker, ironic moments. You have colleagues, including colleagues in National Assembly, who are facing charges of corruption, Mr. Speaker, and whom, Mr. Speaker, some have been sentenced for over 70 years. And then, Mr. Speaker, they appeal. After they appeal, the Constitution says they have a right, the constitutional right, Mr. Speaker, of presumption of innocence. If I'm not wrong, that's Article 50 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, they are running and they are in the ballot. Now, Governor Sonko and Governor Waititu brought to this House, impeached, Mr. Speaker, without any standard being observed. The standard of proof, insofar as impeachment is concerned, is the conscience of every senator who votes. And so Governor Sonko was impeached by 24, if I'm not wrong, 24, 25 senators, against 22, 23. Then, Mr. Speaker, he has received his punishment for being removed from office in the term that was elected by the people of Nairobi. Then you go ahead, Mr. Speaker, and bar him from running from office. Now, this is a question I want to ask jurists who are here and who are watching this, my presentation. When the Constitution says when you are convicted for more than 6 months, Mr. Speaker, you are barred from being a member of parliament of holding public office. But once you've served your sentence, even if it was manslaughter, Mr. Speaker, if it was theft, if it was corruption, once you've served for 5, 10 years, you have been atoned. You have and therefore, Mr. Speaker, you've been redeemed. You have atoned for your sins and you have been redeemed. Meaning, after that conviction of 5 years, 7 years, now you can run for office. Now, the question I want to ask Senator Orengo and lawyers who are here, Justice Matzayo, among others. Mr. Speaker, if a person has been impeached, for how long are they going to be barred from running? Someone is sentenced for 5 years, and after serving for the 5 years, he has a right to go back and run for office. But someone is impeached and then indefinitely told he cannot run for office. Remember, in the first instance, there was a Speaker of County Assembly of Kirinyaga, Mr. Speaker, who was almost impeached by the County Assembly for chewing gum in the chambers, Mr. Speaker. The reasons for impeachment and the standard of impeachment, Mr. Speaker, standard of proof for impeachment is so low that it depends on the politics of the day, the feeling of the Senate at that time. Sometimes even that impeachment is procured by bribery by your political opponents. And then, Mr. Speaker, after you've served that punishment, having been elected by 1 million people, then you are told you've served the term, you do not complete your term. Then after that, you want to run for a different office or the same office, you are told you cannot run for that office. Mr. Speaker, we are punishing people, Mr. Speaker, out of mob justice. It's an illegality that we must not allow it to succeed.
What's your point of order, Senator Orengo?
Yes, I'm willing to be informed. I'm willing to be informed, Mr. Speaker. I'm always willing to be informed by Senator Orengo.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to inform the Senator from Orengo that he's making very fundamental statements, but you should bear in mind that generally impeachments are a political process, even in the United States of America. In relation to President Trump, it didn't really matter what he had done, so long as he had the right numbers in the Senate. But I think to inform him, the answer lies in the Constitution. If you read the Constitution, eligibility and all, with the Bill of Rights and the principles of double jeopardy, I think the answer is there. It's just because a lot of times when it comes to politics, we tend to make convenient judgments. But I think truly the Constitution addresses this point very clearly.
So, Senator Murkomen, keep it brief because we have Senator in the afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know, Senator Orengo has said something very weighty without saying it. In the sense that, Mr. Speaker, he agrees with me without, Mr. Speaker, agreeing very loudly, because let's give room to the courts. The High Court is here to pronounce itself on that very important matter of being barred from office. And Mr. Speaker, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court will have its time. But Senator Orengo, you'll also agree with me that I disagree a little bit with the Chief Justice when he went to a radio show and pronounced herself on this issue, when we know that this matter might come before her sometime later. And I think she should have exercised some level of restraint. But, Mr. Speaker, when we come back, hopefully, those of us who are going to be back here, Senator Mogeni is lifting his hand that he's one of them, Mr. Speaker. Since we have a competitor there, I'm not going to say anything. But the point I'm saying is that when we come back, we must put in place a legislation that explains that issue. Divorcing Chapter 6 from the requirement of, Mr. Speaker, presumption of innocence, constitutional right on the presumption of innocence, and, Mr. Speaker, the exhaustion of process of appeal is, Mr. Speaker, a violation of the Constitution itself, because the Constitution says you must have purposive interpretation of the Constitution and holistic interpretation, not just cherry-picking some sections of the law. And therefore, I feel very sad that a process of impeachment that went through this House is going to be used to bar people from running for office. And I think that is, Mr. Speaker, something that we must address. And the courts are now seized to some of those issues, including the one of the CC of Kiambu, who is our Senate candidate, Karungu Wadhangwa. And I hope that this matter will be settled by the courts of law. So, Mr. Speaker, other than that, I want to say that since we have in the afternoon a motion of adjournment, I believe that history will judge us positively for the things that we did. And I believe that during the first session of the Senate of the 13th, in the 13th Parliament, yourself, Senator Orengo, among others who will have exited this House, Mr. Speaker, to serve in other capacities, will be invited, Mr. Speaker, during our first retreat to make sure that we look together on the issues that we dealt with that time, even as the new Senate will begin to plan for the future. And I hope that our working relationship will be improved. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I want to ask those who are coming now